something very few people know about me is when I was in elementary school, I had an extreme phobia of vomit. In fact, it was so severe that I had to go to counseling, and I couldn't go near anyone who was sick, and I had to carry a handkerchief around with me whenever I went to school, just in case I threw up or I would see somebody else vomit. And this came to a crossroads in my life when I was in 5th grade, and my grandfather became very ill. He was confined to a care home, and as he started to deteriorate and we knew that he was going to die, he became very sick, and I wanted to visit him. But as he became very sick, he too would throw up quite often. And so I came to a decision. Could I surpass my fear and visit my dying grandfather, or would I have to stay away? Ultimately, I went and I stepped out of my comfort zone. I challenged my beliefs, and I went and I visited him. And as I stand older and as I overcame my fear of vomit, I am forever grateful that I made that decision. It is one of the best moments of my life, and I am so happy I saw my dying grandfather. Like I stepped out of my comfort zone, it's time too that our country steps out of its comfort zone and challenges its own beliefs and its own fears, specifically in regards to the system we live in. And that's why it's imperative that we ask today's question: will identity politics be successful in 2020? The answer is an absolute and resounding yes, for 3 key reasons. First, the empirics we're seeing from the 2018 blue wave. Secondly, the success of identity policies already in action. And finally, the morality of the issue at hand. Now, we're seeing if we turn to the 2018 election, identity politics are already proving to be extremely successful. In fact, The Hill found on August 8th, 2018, that Democrats and Republicans combined to nominate a record number of women for seats in Congress in 2018. In fact, this record number was 185 women were nominated by the 2 major parties for major seats in the US government. But the success did not stop with the nomination process. In fact, the Diplomat added on November 15th, 2018, that a record 102 women were elected to seats in the US Congress. And it didn't stop there. We saw multiple different identities across multiple different levels of government have extremely high levels of success in the US 2016 elections. We saw the first openly gay governor be elected to Colorado. We saw record numbers of Muslim women being elected to Congress, and we saw more African American, more Chinese American, more Asian American, and more LGBTQ American candidates be elected from state and local offices all the way up to the highest levels of the federal government. Now, if we learn anything from history, we find that so often election trends are indicative of success in future elections. So if we take the success that members of all different identities had in 2018, we can safely predict that identity politics will again be successful in 2020. But it goes further than just predicting trends. We have to look at success too. And in fact, this is what former President Barack Obama did when, according to the Washington Post, on November 24th, 2018, he drew intense criticism for saying that he honestly believes that a non-white or non-male candidate could win the presidential election in 2020. And this wasn't the first time he was ridiculed for saying such, but the problem is minorities in office and in roles of leadership tend to be far more successful than the traditional white male leader that our country has become so used to. In fact, CNBC reported on March 4th, 2017, that women in leadership positions were surveyed by the Harvard Business Review, and 51,000 different leaders across the world were considered in part of this survey. They found that on average, women ranked higher than men in success rates in nearly every single category surveyed. They ranked better in building relationships, in developing talent, in innovating, and distributing their resources. The success is there. The proof is in the pudding. And then if we analyze specific figures too, look at the popularity of Barack Obama's presidency as the first black man to ever hold the office. Look at the success of senators like Amy Klobuchar or Kamala Harris in grilling questions in the US Senate hearing, or Elizabeth Warren when she took on many of Trump's cabinet nominees. We see that the American population is buying into the identity policies, and rightfully so, because they're being incredibly successful. Finally, we have to look at the simple morality of the issue. What's going on, and what do we need to do? I honestly believe that there is still much good in the world, and if there is good, we will all check our privilege and understand that steps still need to be taken. Despite the record number of women that were elected, The Hill adds on November 3rd, 2018, that women still only control 23% of Congress. And this goes further when the New York Times adds on December 8th, 2018, that there are only 9 female governors in the United States. And this doesn't stop here. The Washington Post also added on November 25th, 2018, that hate crimes, specifically against African Americans, increased by 1,000 from 2017 to 2018. So we see that, yes, we have made progress, and yes, that progress has been incredibly successful, but there's still work to be done. Women are still disenfranchised. LGBTQ members are still disenfranchised. People of color are still disenfranchised. So if we all evaluate this issue from a moral perspective, we will recognize that for too long, white, straight males have dominated leadership positions in America. And it's time to let new identities, new people, new policies, and new proposals come to the forefront. And that's why I can confidently say, yes, I do predict identity policies and identity politics will be successful come 2020. So much like throughout the course of my life, specifically with the death of my grandfather, I had to evaluate the situation I was coming from. I was very scared to visit him, lest I should see him throw up. And as I grow older, as comical as that sounds, that was a very important learning moment in my life. I had to challenge the idea that I was uncomfortable in a situation, but if I wanted to have a lasting memory and lasting success and one last visit with my grandfather, I would have to step out of my comfort zones. The easy thing for America to do in the 2020 election would be to nominate another white straight male from the Democratic Party and elect either him or Trump come 2020. But it's time, too, that we evaluate the circumstance that we're in and step out of our comfort zone and challenge our preconditions. The success of doing so will be threefold. First, we will see the carryover in momentum and voter excitement from the past 2018 election carry over into 2020. Second, we'll see the policies and leaders who have held office in leadership roles as members of a minority group continue to be very successful. And finally, we will address the issue from a good and moral standpoint, one which we can all feel good about. And that's why the answer to today's question, will identity politics be successful in 2020, is a resounding yes. Thank you.